What's good, everybody? We back with another episode of the No Level Cap podcast. It feels like it's been a while, even though for y'all we haven't really been anywhere. If you're wondering why we covered Pokemon last week, that's because we recorded an episode in advance to give one of our crew members the chance to hit up an anime convention and prove that we're not fake geek boys. Anyway, I'd like to introduce everybody to the crew. We got the collector of collectors and Triangle Strategy hype man, Will Coleman. What up, Will?
What's happening, everybody? I be chilling, man. These strategy games whooping my ass right now, but it's okay. We almost done. We winning.
Let's go. We got the Black Daredevil and the best actor in Austin, Terrence Flowers. What's poppin', Terrence?
Man, those are some bold claims, but I'll take it for now. I'm good.
There you go. You got to think forward, man. You got to think forward. Lastly, we got the living cartoon and the man with the golden voice, Rakeem Beck. What's going on, Rakeem?
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Keem. Single K, double E, single M. I'm still black, still gaming. No level cap. Let's go.
All right, that's it. And I'm Sage Ashford. You know, we talk about all the video games, all the anime, and none of the bullshit. We back with episode 15. Just so everybody knows, No Level Cap goes live every Monday morning. If you prefer the video version, we're on YouTube. If you're a fan of the audio version, we're live on Spotify as well. And we put up bite-sized versions of our podcast on TikTok. This week, we're going to talk about the Summer Game Showcases. Now, if you've been following me over on twitch.tv/Sage Shinigami, you've seen my opinions. I watched every conference. I started with the Guerrilla Collective, the Wholesome Direct. Then we had the Summer Games Fest, the Future Game Show, the Xbox and Bethesda Game Showcase, the PC Gaming Showcase. We had the Guerrilla Collective 3.5, the Extended Game Xbox Game Showcase, and a bunch of anniversary showcases, one for Assassin's Creed, one for Final Fantasy VII, one for Dragon's Dogma. I watched them all because I am so devoted to this podcast, and also I have no life. I want to ask everybody which ones did y'all check out, and if you could give me a rating of all the ones that you saw. We're going to start with Terrence. What'd you see, and what'd you give it?
I saw Sony's their state of play. I saw Capcom's showcase. The Final Fantasy VII anniversary stream, and I guess I technically saw the Dragon's Dogma stream, even though, yeah. But
you see the Xbox one?
Yeah, I did. Well, I watched those later. I didn't watch them live, but I for the most part, I watched it. I know what happened. I saw the Xbox one, and I saw Summer Games Fest. I didn't get to watch those live because, like you said, I was on vacation during that time, went to an anime convention, but yeah, I did eventually catch up on them. Overall, seven.
I was gonna say, be hard on them if you got to. What's up?
I think I would give it a 7. Is it okay to say which one we thought was the best, or is that a separate thing?
Go for it.
I'm just gonna say I think, at the rate of sound like a Sony fanboy, I think that State of Play was the best conference out of all of them. Like, I think it was the one that hit the most beats, and it had the best announcements there. And funny enough, it was the one that that took the less time. Well, in comparison to like the other big conferences, not in comparison to like the Final Fantasy VII and like Dragon's Dogma event and stuff like that. Yeah, but in comparison to the other big conferences, Xbox's thing, I mean, it was good for what it was. It's just that we didn't get a lot of that stuff isn't coming out this year. So, I mean, 2023 is going to be an amazing year, but for this year, I mean, it's kind of whatever. There was some good stuff there, but Summer Games Fest, I'm not gonna lie, Summer Games Fest, that was kind of a disappointment. But I guess maybe that's what we get for kind of hyping ourselves up and thinking that it was gonna be, like the next big thing. But I guess Jeff, like that tweet said, I'll invite Jeff to my funeral just so he can let me down again. I don't think that badly of it, but that's the meme that goes around. But yeah, I think I would just overall give it a 7, just because Sony was the strongest. And I guess if there was Sony was the strongest, the FF7 event was amazing. I think I'd put that maybe kind of like second. The other ones, I mean, they all kind of have like their own little order to it. I'm not going to sit and like order them all, but I think for the most part, I think I would just give this Summer Games Fest overall just like a 7. I think it was fine enough.
Yeah. I guess I'll go. I saw everything, like I said, and I would also give it. I'm gonna give it a 7. I'm trended towards a 6, but the Square thing really really pulled up my opinion overall, because before that I was like, man, this is very disappointing. I guess state of play, like if we count that part of it, because it came in so early, if we count that, Sony definitely won in my opinion. I'm not gonna. I actually disagree. I think Xbox showed a lot of stuff that's coming this year, because I mean, like, they locked themselves into just the next 12 months, so it was really only stuff that you could see like coming out between like July, but from like July to next June. So that's, you know, very soon. Within the next 12 months, that's as soon as you're gonna get. In some ways, I thought that was kind of what handicapped them, or kneecapped them, I suppose, because there's so many games that you wanted to see from them that you didn't see. Like, yeah, there were so many games that everybody, including some of us on this podcast, had hyped up, and you're like, oh, I think we're gonna see this, or maybe we see this, or maybe we see that, and you didn't get a chance to see any of that. Like Indiana Jones, that was one that was from IO Interactive, that's being worked on. A new Doom or whatever id Software is working on. It's just like a bunch of Microsoft game. Perfect Dark, Avowed, Fable,
Hellblade 2.
Hellblade 2.
I was really shocked that Hellblade 2 wasn't there.
That was really surprising.
Yeah.
I wasn't shocked.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't shocked the moment they said the next 12 months. In other words, from June 2022 to June 2023. Like, if Hellblade's next fall, then that would fall outside of those 12 months. So no, there would be no reason to have it there. And so, like, I felt like that really kneecapped them from what they could have been. And I was like, oh man, that's disappointing. But like, yeah, I thought Xbox, it wasn't very good. I do want to say this, as far as Summer Game Fest, I feel like Jeff is getting raked over the coals, and it's unfair, because to me, I think Jeff, up until recently, had brought it. Last year's Summer Game Fest had Elden Ring. That was the game that everybody wanted to see, and he had the first gameplay reveal of it. He also had Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, which, you know, the Borderlands fan base is pretty big. He had the Game Awards. To me, the Game Awards is yet to disappoint. It's always a little long. It's always got a few too many ads in it. But like, overall, I always see like a lot of big games or like interesting games and stuff. I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. And this is the first time that I looked at what Jeff had, and I was like, wow, this sucks. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I do think Jeff is getting unfairly killed over this, but like, it sucked. And the thing that I saw that really shook me, on another podcast I was watching, and I was watching the Kind of Funny podcast, and they talked about, somebody asked this question. They said, after seeing the Summer Game Fest, are you more or less excited for the Microsoft show? And I was like, I could go both ways. Like, I could say, okay, maybe Microsoft got all the big games, and I'm gonna bring that up in just a second. But like, or I could say, like, there was nothing to get, and ultimately that's what it was. There was nothing to get. Like, Microsoft didn't have anything like that. It's not like Microsoft came with like a bunch of really cool third parties. They had one or two. We'll talk about some of the games and specifics in a little bit. They had one or two, but they didn't really have nothing crazy. So like, they had nothing third party that was crazy. The first party stuff, they locked themselves into 12 months, so that wasn't super crazy. So it's like, all right, I mean, this all was just a disappointment. And then the last thing I want to say before I hand it off to Will, the last thing I want to say is, it's too many game showcases.
Yeah.
Like, some of that shit should have been at the major ones. And Jeff said in an interview, he was like, there's not going to be as many showcases this year. A lot of them are just going to kind of click up and basically be with under Sony or Microsoft or whatever. And that's not what happened. Like, we wound up like with like 50 different indie showcases. And I'm not going to lie, like, I'll be online sometimes and I'll see like a bunch of people go like, oh man, the AAA games industry is so repetitive and there's just really not a lot to it. Bullshit. Like, the indie games industry isn't that much better now. It's a lot of Metroidvanias, a lot of farming, a lot of shit that was popular back in 1996 and 1998. A lot of voxel-based stuff, deck builders, roguelikes, and Dark Souls. Like that, I looked at so many games in in Guerrilla Collective, the Wholesome Direct, the Future Game Showcase, and the PC Gaming Showcase, and I'm like, damn, these shit's starting to run together. It's a lot of like, and horror, hella space horror, or just horror in general. And I'm like, damn, this shit's starting to run together. Like, even the stuff where I'm like, it doesn't matter how unique your idea is. By the time I get to the 5th or 6th iteration of it, I'm tired of it. And in fact, it would be better if your idea was more generic, like the big picture idea. Like, okay, well, I'm doing a fantasy RPG. Cool. And then now you can niche down into certain things in the way that you execute your fantasy RPG. But if your idea is like, oh, I'm doing a fantasy deck builder RPG with like 2D art and shit, like, okay, well, it's like 6 of those, bro. So like, what's making yours stand out from the next one? And so like, that's the problem. And that's why I was looking at a lot of these games. I'm like, I guess. And between that and the fact that a lot of those big games, like all the Final Fantasy shit, that should have found its way to Sony's conference or to Microsoft's conference. All that Capcom shit should have found its way to Sony or Microsoft. Like, y'all need to get back to clicking up, because this shit is exhausting. Like, unless you're the hardest of the hardcore, because even Terrence admitted like he didn't see a lot of it, and I'm like, yeah, of course you didn't, because
I wasn't gonna watch all three. I looked at how long they were too. I'm like, I'm not gonna sit here for 3 hours and watch these.
That's too much of a time command, like too much of a time demand. Like, the only reason I watched all of those was because I do live reacts. If I wasn't gonna do those, I would have just been like, I'm gonna Google it later and find out what's on it. So yeah, 7 is you motherfuckers lucky to get 7, because really I wanted to say 6. Will, what did you give it? What did you see and what did you give them all?
Just keep it short. I did see the State of Play. I seen the Final Fantasy VII anniversary. I seen some bits of the Dragon's Dogma. I definitely seen some bits of PC gaming and the Summer Game Fest and bits of Xbox Bethesda. I've seen a little bit of that. And if I had to give any rating to it, because I didn't get a chance to see Wholesome directing the Gorilla thing, I didn't get a chance to see that. So that's out of my wheelhouse if anything's there. But to give a rating to it, I'm kind of floating between, just like y'all, 6 and 7, and maybe, if I'm being generous here, 7.5. But I enjoyed some of the things I've seen. There's a lot of stuff in there I really do want to put my hands on. There's a lot of things I can't wait to see come out. State of Play, I think, hit the groove. It did what it was supposed to do. It came out with a banger, and then it just kind of it had a flow to it that it was like, we're going to get you here, then we're going to let you go, then we're going to hit you with something at the end, and we're out. Which I highly appreciated. I didn't need you to stand there and talk to them between every 3 to 4 games. Give me a big one that you want to see, and then you talk to them for 10, 15 minutes, then you go to the next one, do the same thing. Don't ever do that again. But just... I'm cool with it. So I think PlayStation hit the nail on the head. Xbox could have done a little bit better. Summer Game Fest itself definitely could have been a bit better for me, especially when it came to them details on Starfield. Those details on Starfield, I like it, but when they was throwing out like, 1,000 planets, I was like,
oh, you talking about Microsoft?
Yeah, I know. I know I said the Summer Game Fest, but I knew what I was trying to get to. My brain is going right now. So yeah, that right there just kind of threw me. I'm like, 1,000 planets. I don't know if I got that kind of time on my hands.
They said a lot of those would be like empty. So
I mean that's good to know, but at the same time, it's something. And you know, Todd Howard got to embellish a little bit sometimes, don't
he? Yeah, he did. Does he ever?
You got to let it go out there. And the thing with The Last of Us Part 1 being at the end of, you know, I ain't gonna lie to you, that shit hit me in the ankle like a razor scooter, bro. I was like, why you do this? I was like, why y'all do this, man? Y'all could have did anything else, and y'all let this man Neil Druckmann hold up the last 15 to 20 to show me concept art, to tell me that there's a show, and to be like, oh, we remade the game from the ground up. It's still the same game though. $70, please. Aha. So yeah, I didn't like that, but like I said, Sony had the best one to me. But them things I mentioned, I did not like. Don't do that shit no more. Do not.
The thing, when you say Sony had the best one, and I agree. The reason why Sony had the best one is because it had the most games that people were super excited about, for one.
Yeah.
And two, it didn't waste a lot of people's time.
Yeah.
It got in and got out. And a lot of those game conferences it was almost like someone looked at a lot of the old late 2000s, early 2010s E3s and was like, remember when we used to get on stage and just talk about shit that nobody gave a fuck about for way too long? What if we did that again?
Remember when The Rock showed up?
We're not gonna talk about The Rock, bro.
Take a sip.
We're not gonna talk, because that shit was wild. I'm not gonna go as far as, because I saw some people reacting online and they was like, it's kind of disrespectful the way The Rock showed up. It wasn't disrespectful, so I'm not gonna say all of that. But it was way too much for this man to just show up and basically say like, hey man, I got this energy drink. I got Black Adam coming out. Like, he was basically just seeing how many things he could shield in a matter of like, 2 minutes. And that was the thing. Like, it was way too much of this. I'm running my mouth talking about stuff that nobody can. Like, just in general on all those different shows, with the exception of Sony, it was too much of I'm running my mouth about shit that don't nobody care about. And the biggest problem is, like, Jeff wanted that for the Summer Game Fest. He talked about, he was like, I don't really like when you just hide behind a bunch of trailers. I'm like, who's hiding? Like, that's what I want. I just want the trailers, like, link the trailers up in an interesting fashion and keep it pushing, bro. Like, it's not that I don't want to hear from the developers, but I don't want to hear from the developers right then. Basically, you holding me hostage, and that's a little bit of an oversay, but like, you holding me hostage because, like, if I don't care about that game, like, I'm not gonna get what's that game? Callisto Protocol. I'm not getting that. Like, that horror is a lot, bro. That gore is way a lot. And so to have Glenn Schofield out there, that was cool that he got a chance to come out there and talk about his studio. And I'm happy for him because I think the way they did Visceral Studios kind of sucked. Like, EA really hold them guys. But like, for him to be on stage for 2-3 minutes, I'm like, all right, well, this could have been a separate interview. And the people that wanted to see it would have been really excited to see it. And I think that's the same for everything. Like, if you don't hold people hostage, because I'm not going to be interested in every game. Like, they came out there with Call of Duty for way too long. Like Will said, The Last of Us way too long.
I was shocked at how long Last of Us 1 carried on. That's crazy.
I think Will was in my chat when we was talking about it.
And
Will said, this is the last game. I looked at the time. I said, Will, ain't no way this is the last game. It's too much time left.
It's The Last of Us.
It just kept going and kept going. I say, wrap it the fuck up. And all they had to show was really if you really want to keep it 1,000, all they had to show was Last of Us Part 1 remake. They came out there and showed some a screenshot, not even a screenshot, a concept art shot of the Last of Us multiplayer. That's not good enough. If you're gonna come out there, you gotta show a full trailer. If you're gonna be out there that long, I need a trailer. And then they had a screenshot of the Last of Us TV show. That's really not good enough. Like, trailers, come out here with some trailers. I don't know what happened there. Rakeem, what shows did you get a chance to see? And let me get a rating 1 through 10.
I got a chance to see. I know we already covered the PlayStation conference, of course. I saw the Xbox conference. I saw the most of the Summer Games Fest and then watched every hour, every minute of it. I saw the Capcom event. I saw Guerrilla Collective 3.5. I saw the Final Fantasy event, and I saw the Dragon's Dogma event. Historical thing. Really, I actually averaged my scores, and man, it's basically what y'all said, 7.57. I think for me, the whole thing is just telling this is just average. Just by the numbers. It's the most, like, we got games. Most of them you already knew about, which Jeff Keighley actually warned us about before we got here. So he told us, and we got what he told us. As I watched each one, I remember the Xbox conference was probably the one I was looking forward to the most because I was waiting on Starfield. I really want to see what that looked like. And I kind of agree with what you said, Sage, although I feel like during the Xbox conference, they had the little talks. It felt like it was still going at a decently fast pace to me, at least in the Xbox conference compared to Summer Games Fest.
Yeah, way better than Summer Game Fest. For sure.
Yeah. It definitely dragged a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. I remember watching the Guerrilla Collective, and we had this conversation, I think a week or two ago, about how, like, with this collection of indie games, when they have a lot of games that are similar, and we're like, man, all these games are the same. The problem is when we finally get a game that's different, it's so different. We don't even know how to freaking comprehend it. Now, one game, I guess we'll talk about this later, but as a game I remember it come off the top of my head, like Neon White, for the first time I saw it last year. I remember seeing it, I was like, what the fuck is this? That's how it feels when you finally see innovation. It's
and
like,
next year, there will be 9 games that look exactly like Neon White scheduled to come out over the next 18 months.
Yeah, because they looked at that Metacritic score and they're like, ooh, we want some of that.
Exactly.
I'm definitely going to try to get into Neon White at some point. I think it's on PC and Switch. If I'm correct.
It is.
But as a whole conference, definitely average. There were a few good things I liked. I'll get into the games I liked the best out of the conference when we get to that part of the podcast. But overall, there definitely was a lot of, okay, You know, it's all right. You know, you got a few things here are cool. A few surprises. I think one thing that a lot of us hadn't talked about, Kojima working with Xbox, on new IP. That was kind of exciting.
Coming 2026.
That's the problem. The problem with that was, once again, with the average thing, like, oh man, working on something. I can't tell you what it is though.
Well, we do know what it is. He just didn't tell us what it was because it leaked. Like there's a reporter basically, and it was a little mini controversy around it. It's this reporter Tom Henderson, and basically he saw a trailer, I think, but like the trailer was supposed to be NDA'd, but he never signed an NDA. That was like someone else showed it to him, and he had not signed an NDA, so he was like, I ain't got to be quiet." So he was like, "Yeah,
I'm telling."
He went, "I'm telling," and he was like, "Yeah, it's called Overdose, and it's got this in it, and you can look it up online. Just look, Google Tom Henderson."
See, I did not know about that.
Twitter, I didn't know about that either.
Yeah, so like the info is out there. It's just we weren't supposed to know, but we do know because it leaked. So. But yeah, I agree with Terrence at 2026 at best. So
probably. So yeah, like little things like that here and there, like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Of course, like the Final Fantasy VII conference, not the Final Fantasy conference, the Final Fantasy VII conference. It's ridiculous that one game has its own conference. And I love Final Fantasy VII. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I've played it multiple times. Love it. Let's move on. Let's finish this trilogy. We gotta do something else.
So, you know what's wild about that conference? Two things. One, all the odds were on that conference. Like, everybody wanted to see what was going to be there if they were going to get Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, which raises two questions. Which raises 2 points, one of which is a question and one of which is a statement. Okay, so the question is, if you knew everybody was going to have the odds on you, why didn't you do your own? And I know I was complaining about everybody doing their own conference, but like in this case, I think Square really could have stood to do their own conference that maybe had some of their other smaller games that you could have advertised to people. Like, you have this big flagship thing that people are excited about, and you could have used that as a tentpole to be like, oh, well, also Star Ocean 6 is coming out this year, which I'm starting to think it might get delayed. DFL Chronicles is out this year. Valkyrie Elysium is out this year. Front Mission Remake is out this year. You could have done a Square Enix Presents that had all of that stuff while you also talked about your Final Fantasy VII show and stuff. And it would have been fine. Like, people would have been like, oh, that was kind of neat. And I might check this out. And that could have raised the sales a little bit. Instead, y'all was just like, let's just focus on Final Fantasy VII and move on. And the crazy thing is, I can almost guarantee you that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth does not sell as well as Final Fantasy 16. Because Final Fantasy VII Remake already didn't sell as well as Final Fantasy 15. So, like, it's kind of wild that we get this level of focus. I'm like, well, what are we doing?
Was 15 PS4 only at launch?
No, it was, like, yeah, I am being a little disingenuous.
Oh, okay.
Final Fantasy 15 was multi-platform.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, even without that, at this point, it's it's on every platform. We'll see what it looks like 6 months from now, because now it's finally on Steam, and a lot of the PC people, they're like, oh, I don't fuck with Epic. So now it's finally on Steam. So we'll see what it looks like, especially since it's on sale right now. You can get it, I think, for $50. So we'll see what it looks like 6 months from now. And if the sales are much higher, if it's like closer to 10 million, then I'm wrong. But if it's still hovering around 6, maybe 7 million, I'm like, okay, well, this isn't going to be as big as 16. So it's crazy. Like Keem says, like, maybe they should move on from this, this one game. Like, that's crazy.
I mean, after the trilogy, 'cause I mean, 6 or 7 million, that's still good. That's still a good secondary series behind your main series.
Yeah, I mean, after the trilogy is done, I agree. At that point, leave it alone. FF9
remake, where it at?
Yeah, and then that's another thing. Like, that rumored FF9 remake could have popped up here. Tactics Ogre, that pretty much got confirmed because they put it up on the PlayStation Store. That could have been at a Square show. So I don't know what happened there. So I do want to ask let me get a couple of games from everybody that y'all were super excited about. So Will, what was at the shows plural, that you were like really excited about?
Okay, well, first I'm gonna start with the obvious RE4 remake. Put that shit in my veins, please. I need that right now. Go ahead. I am a fiend. I am scratching for it. I need it. It's one of my favorite games of all time when it came out, when it finally hit the PS2, because I know it was GameCube exclusive for a while. But one of my favorite games I love to play, I can play it at any given moment. And now we're getting a reimagining of it to give it its new coat of paint, new environments, and all of that. And I just feel like it can do great things when it comes out in March. Another game, not necessarily one that I'm excited for, but it's interesting to me because I didn't think this would be a thing, especially given what we have right now, and that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. Now, when I saw that, my brain immediately went to like, oh, are we gonna be playing through these like stories of the games, like, you know, kind of recreating some of those moments from the movies? I was thinking that.
Is it an asymmetrical game?
It's an asymmetrical game, and I'm just like, this would have been fine if it came out a lot earlier, or the idea kind of been out there beforehand, and especially if their poster boy wasn't already in an asymmetrical game known as Dead by Daylight. So I'm kind of like, he's over here, now he has his own. What are we doing here? And then we just had Evil Dead come out, which is an asymmetrical game too.
Not to mention Friday the 13th, right?
I was going to say that this seems just to be a trend.
What did I just tell y'all about? Like, okay, this is what happens. Some does well, and everybody like, let me see if I can get in on this. Like, all right.
Yeah. So that's the thing that's kind of throwing. Like, it kind of concerns me that it's a thing, but I'm like, if it comes out and it does well, I can't knock it for what it does. But it's just, it feels like it shouldn't be out here standing next to Dead by Daylight, which is on its 6th anniversary event right now. So, yeah, Dead by Daylight's been out for a while. I didn't even think about it until I seen the shit pop up on my game. I was like, it's been 6 years?
Wow.
So, yeah, there's that. We have a game that's out right now that we finally got the date for, and it finally pulled up and out. TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Amen. Me loving beat 'em ups as a kid, me playing Final Fight, Streets of Rage, and the TMNT games. Hey, when they pulled that out, I was so glad to see a date on it. And shout outs to my manager at work for actually gifting me the game on Steam, so I actually can play it.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So shout outs to him. I got that. So I'll be playing that one of these days. Thanks to him for that.
Up in that game.
And we mentioned another game earlier, Neon White. I want to get my hands on that because I didn't expect it to be what it is. I was like, this looks interesting. I see that there's also leaderboards in this game because it's kind of like, in a way, time trial, time attack type stuff. And you can get on the boards and beat the levels as fast as you can. And they put the thing up right at the end of the level, apparently. So they're like, hey, you're going to see where you at. You want to replay this level? You can beat this dude above you. So, yeah, I'm ready to play that. And another game that's coming out next year, because Sage mentioned it, Demon School. That right there. He was like, this might be something you might like. Well, I'm just like, let me see it. Once I saw it, I'm like, yeah, it is right up my alley. I'm willing to play it. Especially because it has the Persona 2 vibes to it. They borrowing from Persona 2. Not just any of the Personas, but 2 in particular.
The X show, or was that at PC Gaming Show?
I think that was at PC Gaming.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
Yeah, that was at PC Gaming. You showed me that, and I was like, this could happen. I can see myself playing this next year. So, yeah, that's about really all I got because I don't really stand too tall on a lot of games, but as they come out, of course, I'm obviously going to be doing the Final Fantasy VII stuff. I ain't going to sit up here and lie, hold my breath to y'all, because if I lie to y'all, I'm lying to Jesus, myself, and these 3 motherfuckers I'm in here talking with. So, yeah, I'm playing Crisis Core, Ever Crisis, and all of that. I'm going to play all that. It's a given. I'm a Square Enix guy. So, yeah, that's what I got in terms of games that I really just want to play. If that's something I missed, I'm pretty sure one of y'all might mention it. So, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off.
Terrence, what did you see that stood out that you're like, oh, man, I want that?
We're just talking about just everything that's been shown throughout this entire showcase, right? Through all the showcases, right?
Like, don't just limit it to, like, you know, Xbox or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. I guess first and foremost, man, Street Fighter 6 looks good, man. It's the return. It's the return that we've all been wanting, and I'm glad. It looks so good, and I'm glad that people are hyped for a new Street Fighter game again. Like we've talked about before, and I won't go on too much about it, but just the fact Street Fighter 5 left people kind of burned out at the beginning, and it got better over time. Like Street Fighter 5's in a good place now, but it just looks like Street Fighter 6 is already just hitting the ground running and giving us everything that we want. I mean, we still have to wait until it comes out and see if it, you know, is everything that is shaping up to be, but so far I really, really like what I'm seeing. like Will mentioned, Resident Evil 4 remake. I'm looking forward to playing that. Big fan of OG RE4, and I'm very curious to see the direction that Capcom takes this one. And if it's more like Resident Evil 2 remake and RE3 remake, then hey, I'm down. Of course, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I mean, come on. It's Final Fantasy VII. I mean, I played remake. I enjoyed remake. I got to play Rebirth. I enjoyed Square's the Final Fantasy VII anniversary event. It was really cool. And the fact that Rebirth is as far along as it is, and that it's coming. They say winter.
Next winter.
They say next winter, but let's be honest, that's 2024 because winter is ambiguous.
Talking about winter,
yeah,
and it's and they don't put a date on it. I'm like, all right, we'll see.
Yeah, it's essentially February or probably March of 2024 or something like that. That's I mean, let's be real. The other game, this game is interesting just because I didn't play any of Genshin Impact, but I just really like how cool this game looks. Zenless Zone Zero. Yeah. Man, I just really like the art direction of it. It just has such a unique look, just such a cool look to it, and I wouldn't mind giving it a try when it does come out.
Here you go, Terrence. You're gonna need this.
What is that?
The wallet.
Oh,
It'll cost you all of it.
Hey man, I mean, you gotta come off of it in some way, I suppose. I'll just say this: the Hioverse stuff, it's shaping up. I mean, Genshin started off well, and they just hit the ground running with this. Because I know they have that other game that what is it? Honkai Star Rail. Yeah, that looks good too.
Yeah.
So yeah. But lastly, the last thing for me, and this is a game that's coming out at the end of this month. The Cuphead DLC, Delicious Last Course. I've been waiting on that, and I can't wait to play that the day that it comes out. But yeah, I enjoyed Cuphead. I didn't get to play it when it was on Xbox because I don't own an Xbox. But when it came to PlayStation, I played it then, thoroughly enjoyed it, and can't wait to dive into the Delicious Last Course. So there's other games that I could mention, but for the most part, those are the games that I thought that I just really enjoyed seeing at the conferences overall.
All right, Rakeem, what you got for us, man? What games are you like, man, I got to get these?
All right. So, as I just mentioned in the previous subject, I talked about Final Fantasy VII Remake and how about Square Enix, after this trilogy is over, probably should move on. However, I am still a diehard Final Fantasy VII fan. I am still excited for Remake. I like the fact that it's going in a completely different direction. I'm excited to see what they do differently, how they improve on things, how they integrate parts of the story and integrate new ideas into it. That's interesting. And what else I'm never going to be tired of is that mother freaking Crisis Core remaster. Holy crap. I did not expect that. I was so happy. I was so happy, bro. I was like this the whole time. Like, back.
Zach
you
is
alive
back.
and remake? You got your own game back, bro? You better get your back. Let's go, bro. I'm so hyped for this. I love Crisis Core. When I had a PSP, and a PSP, like I have a fond memory of playing my PSP in college, as many of you know, because I play a lot of games with you guys, actually. Crisis Core was my game when I went home for Christmas for like break. I'd be in my room, get some hot chocolate or something, play that sucker at night, in the morning. Crisis Core is my motherfucking Pokemon. I love that game. So the fact it's getting a remake, not only is it getting bought, it's getting pre-ordered. Wow. It's getting pristine. I might get the limited edition. I don't even know what the limited edition got. I might just get it. I love Crisis Core, so I'm hyped. Yes. So moving away from Final Fantasy VII, other games I'm excited for, Midnight Suns I've been looking at for a long time. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's me and you, Will. We on these tactical RPGs lately, and I can't get enough, bro. And they give me another one with Marvel superheroes. And card games, man. Like, hey, man, let's put some cards, get some tactics, some RPG elements. I'm cool with it. So yeah, I'm hyped. I'm hyped for Midnight Suns. I think it's interesting. I'm gonna give it a chance because I like the world building they're going for. I like how the characters are looking. Like the story's gonna be emphasized and be pretty cool. I'm hyped for that. Other games I'm looking forward to. Now look, I know a lot of people wrote this off when they saw it, but you know what? I'm gonna take one for the team. Exo Primal.
Really?
You don't look that bad to me, son. I looked at that new trailer they had, the Capcom event. I was like, you know what? I looked at some more deep dive gameplay they had, like a 15-minute gameplay session. As I've told before on the podcast, I have a group of friends where we primarily play multiplayer games. Outside of my single player stuff, I like to play multiplayer games. So I literally scout for games for me and my friends to play as a group. And I was like, this look amazing. Well, dude, at a part of the Exo Primal trailer, and people who don't know what Exo Primal is about, it's basically like some end of the world stuff. Some AI is trying to do some tests for mankind. They put them in exosuits fighting against dinosaurs for some reason. It's BS, but it looks cool. What's cool about it is the combat and the class system. They're very delineated classes for each exosuit. And they have roles. They have a tanker kind of role. They have a healer kind of role. They have a single DPS role. They have a long DPS role. People who are familiar with MMOs or games like MOBAs and stuff can really get into these roles because they're very delineated. If you really watch those trailers, they have the tank has a taunt mechanic. The single DPS has like a teleport and a backstab. You have sniper classes. You have these AoE classes, and they're really defined team-oriented abilities. And on top of that, there's a PvP and PvE mechanic. So for me, that's my sweet spot. It's like kind of how the hero shooter genre got off to a good foot with Overwatch and Paladins, finding that niche between people who like shooting things and people who like working as a team. That's what I like. I saw in Exo Prime, and I'm like, I think this game is better than we're giving credit for. I even signed up for the beta recently, so hopefully we'll see more from that. I'll play the beta, and if it's good, might have a sleeper hit on our hands. Other games I'm excited for, Dark Tide. I was a big fan of Vermintide.
So you one of them people that's excited for one of the 60,000 Warhammer 40,000. I should have I fucked that whole joke all the way up, because what I should have said was the 40K at Warhammer clearly stands for how many games they make.
Hey, look, and it's not quality to the quantity. There's a lot of bad ones, but you know what? Vermintide was a diamond in the rough back in the day. So the Fat Shark developers coming with the Dark Tide in the 40K universe, that's pretty exciting to me. Now, of course, if anybody's familiar with the Fat Shark games, they know that these games are always Xbox first and PlayStation later. Every single game they've made has been that way. So I expect the first year this will be Xbox, and then maybe a year or 2 or 3 might get a move over to PlayStation. However, they do have a PC port as well, so that's good. I'm excited because I love games, and what made Vermintide really good before I get into Dark Tide was that Vermintide is set in a universe where the end of the world is coming. There's like the beginning stages, the end of the world. You're fighting back a horde, and if you know anything about that universe in the long term, you can't win. What I like about it is the characters in the world don't give a damn. They're still cracking jokes. They're still having fun. Even in these dark, weird situations when they're fighting these hordes back, they still have these cool interactions with each other, and they have so much character out of that and are so likable. It makes the game way more fun as a result. And I saw, even though in this new game in Dark Tide, you create your own character. So you have, in Vermintide, you have set characters with their own background stories. In this game, you have created characters. But they still have the characteristics of their class. They still have voices. They still have certain character traits depending on the class they have or whatever. And that witty banter, that dialogue, that characterization is still there. And having that with the gunplay, solid gunplay mechanics, oh, man, I can't wait. I can't wait to get into that. It looks so much fun. So I won't take up too much time. My last one's going to be, and I got to say this one, Starfield. Now, we know Starfield, the big RPG coming out of this conference, you know, for Bethesda's big new IP. It's pretty much what I thought it was going to be to a degree.
Skyrim in space.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of No Man's Sky comparisons already. Some of them are apt. I mean, I can't say they're not all apt. You know, it's not exactly the same. It's definitely more grounded in its tone. And there's more of the hardcore RPG mechanics because it's a Bethesda game. But I'm excited because we finally get to see their take on a universal aspect. Me and Sage talked about this numerous times about how the sci-fi genre, when it comes to role-playing games, has great. It seems like they have great ideas, but they won't go all the way with the space part. You can't ever, like, you get the game and you can't fly nowhere. Or you get the game and you have a ship, you can't do nothing with the ship. The whole time I was looking at this conference, I was like, that's cool. Show me the ship. It was like 3 minutes of the trailer. That's cool. Show me the ship. cool. Planet base, astronaut looking. Okay, combat, cool. F all that. Where the ship at? Can I fly the ship onto a planet? When they showed me that, I was like, you just got to sail. If you didn't show me that, I'm tired of it. It's 2022. No Man's Sky showed us it could be done. By God, it's time. If I got a game in space, I want to get in the ship, go in space, land on a planet, explore the planet. It's not that fucking hard. It might have been hard technically, but those days are over.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Like, would you say that we're just now getting to that point where you can do that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, of course, like there's the space sim games that have already explored that. But of course, they're usually limited to like staying on the ship or like limited to a certain type of thing.
Like Elite Dangerous?
Yeah, like Elite Dangerous, even though they recently had like an off-planet thing too, but that was not as positively received as you thought it would be, but we can get to that later. Yeah, so like seeing that is like this is the evolution I've been looking for RPGs, especially sci-fi, because sci-fi just kind of usually got shafted in the RPG area. Like in the sim area, they got plenty of sci-fi games for everybody. If you just want to go out in space on a ship and just hang out in space and do dogfights, there's 100 games like that. I want the full experience. I grew up on Star Trek and Star Wars. I want to see what it's like to be out there and really role play someone in space in a sci-fi environment. Will, you got something to say?
You know what? You said something about flying in space and dogfights, bruh. You want to know what game that just came to my mind about that?
Kingdom Hearts?
Colony Wars.
I'm not familiar with Colony Wars.
It's an old
PlayStation game?
Yeah, old PlayStation 1 game. I remember that. I was like, man, I used to play that demo disc a ton.
Yeah, those games were common back in the day. Like Keem said, the space sim thing, there's never been a lack of space sims. There's just always been a lack of space RPGs where you got a chance to like go out into space and do fun shit that's been the thing that's been like a lot harder to get to.
Yeah.
So yeah, finally I'll say Starfield was the big one I wanted to see. I was satisfied. I want to say it was, oh my God, it's the greatest game ever. No, I didn't feel the same way I felt when I first saw Skyrim the first time. It was like, holy shit. But I felt like this is a good direction. That's how I felt like. Good direction, solid. It's not going to be fun. I'm okay with that. I want to see more down the line, but it's cool. Other than that, honorable mentions was Barbarians, the fighting beat 'em up game, indie game. Now it hasn't been mentioned in a while. I saw another trailer for that.
Popped up at Guerrilla Collective 3.5.
Yeah, that looked good. I want to see more from that. That's not that much information on that. That's why I just said just honorable mention. Yeah. And of course, DD2, Dragon's Dogma 2, the T-shirt company, the T-shirt effect, ready for the new T-shirt graphics in 2023. So yeah, that's all I had for my games.
Okay, so for me, I had as disappointing as it was, there were some games that I'm like, I'm kind of excited for this. I can kind of get into this. So like one of the games I had was Spells and Secrets. This was like an indie game that came out, and it's basically like Harry Potter but without all the transphobia. It was like it takes place at this wizard school called Grefenstein, and it's like you're defending Grefenstein from like these magical creatures. You get a custom protagonist. There are like roguelike elements to it, which I told y'all about that. You know, once something take off, everybody want to do it. But I mean, I'll give them credit for at least getting you a chance to be like a wizard. You know, going to a wizard school, you can protect everybody. I'm like, okay, well that's pretty cool. There was I Am Future, which is like almost out of character for me. It was like this post-apocalyptic game, which if y'all know anything about me, I don't fuck with post-apocalyptic shit. But the way it works is it's like a post-apocalyptic game, but like the character wakes up and he's like fixing the planet. And like he wakes up out of this suspended animation basically, and he comes out and he's like, whoa, what's going on? And he's just like this stoner looking dude, and he's like, I'm gonna go fix the planet. Not because he like feels like it's his mission. It's just something he's like, hey man, you know, ain't nothing else to do. I might as well do this. So that was pretty cool. Keen brought up Starfield. I'm excited for Starfield. I've seen people call it ugly No Man's Sky, which I thought was a little funny.
Ugly like No Man's Sky.
It's like a grayer No Man's Sky. Like it's No Man's Sky without all the colors and with with a story. So, and then like I'm excited for that. Like I was never the one who thought it was going to be like the savior of video games or anything like that. But I did think like, okay, this looks pretty cool. If it's got an interesting story and some good combat, I'm all for that. So I'm like, all right, bet. Which reminds me, Rakeem said something about Star Trek and Star Wars, and I wish Star Trek Resurgence had been there. It wasn't, but it was like the game. It showed up at the Game Awards, I believe, where it was like a Star Trek game with like by some former Telltale creators. So it was like a mostly narrative focused game with a little bit of flying, some minor action segments, but mostly like talking. That game is supposed to come out in the next 2 months. Like it was set as like Q2 2022, but like I think we done with that. So I don't think that game's gonna make it. I think it's unless they just do like a surprise, we out in August, which would still be late. But I don't know. I feel like that game got delayed or pushed back or something like that. Another indie game that I liked was Mail Time, and it was like this game that took place in like a forest, and you're like this little girl going around delivering mail. You just join like a mail company, you go around delivering mail. If you've ever seen me stream, there was this game I streamed last year called Lake, where you're just like a mail delivery girl or a mail delivery woman, and it was like this really cool story. I don't think Mail Time will have that same vibe to it because it did a lot of really cool things insofar as having like an older protagonist that was a woman. It wasn't a very non-violent. It was a very non-violent game. It had its own like special endings and characters you could get to know, romance and stuff like that. I don't think it's gonna be all of that because that was just like something that I don't think that company. I think it's Gamius. I don't think they get enough credit for what they did. But I did kind of like the homey vibes of it. So I'm into that. Another game, Honkai Star Rail. Terrence brought it up. Zenless Zone Zero looks okay, but I've always been like a space sci-fi type of person, so I'm like, okay, well, this looks cool. And so you have a turn-based game. You're on, basically it's like a shout out to Galaxy Railway, 999. It's a shout out to that, where you just go through the stars and explore different places and stuff like that. And it's a turn-based game, which is different. So I'm hyped for that. Flintlock, Siege of Dawn. Yeah. I thought that looked pretty cool. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like that game or not, but I was like, is this like a proper RPG? Is it like? And then another thing, I'm very particular about my RPGs. I like to meet characters. I like to meet people. I don't like it to just be a game where like you can go around and punch people in the mouth and that's it. Like, what am I protecting in this world? Like, who am I meeting? Like, what are the characters like? What is the world like? And if the world is just barren and desolate and it's just me and the people I'm gonna eventually kill, I lose interest really quickly. Like the combat system isn't enough to keep me there. I need a world. I need a story. I need characters and people. So like Flintlock seems like it might have that. And so like if it does, I'm in for that. Like y'all, I'm in for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm in for the Crisis Core remake. I'm in for Final Fantasy 16. I was never a huge Square Enix guy, which doesn't sound like it from the games I just listed. But like Square Enix is one of the last few companies doing JRPGs at a high level. So like, of course I'm gonna try it out if nothing else. Wulong Fallen Dynasty,
that did look
which
good.
is like Neo, but with Romance of the Three Kingdoms. And I'm like, okay, if it has depending on how hard that game is, I can see myself getting it. You know, if it's like Final Fantasy Origin where you can like set the difficulty, I'll definitely be into it. If it's as hard as Neo or harder, I'm probably gonna bounce out on it.
Neo was hard, boy.
Yes,
Facts.
it was.
And then the last two games, Marvel Midnight Suns, which is obvious, and then Gotham Knights. Like Keen was talking about how he wanted to get a limited edition of a game. I'll get a limited edition of that game. If they fucking show me what's in it, I thought that trailer fucking sucked. It was just like Nightwing. They were like, we've got more from Gotham Knights. And it was just some fuck-ass Nightwing trailer. Not that I got anything against Nightwing, he my boy, but like the way that they set that trailer up, it was just old footage. I'm like, no, you got to show us something new. Like, it's as if they haven't looked online, those developers, it's like they haven't looked online and seen the reaction to their own game. Like,
they don't read the comments.
It looks like they are. It looks like they're literally not reading the comments. Like, the fan opinion on that game has shifted from, I don't know, to, I think this game is going to be bad. And I understand the desire to be like, well, we'll show them. We're not going to tell them anything. And then when the game come out, it'll be cold and then they'll see. Like, no, that's not how it works. You got to show your game is cold before the game comes out so that enough people buy it.
Yeah, otherwise it'll be like Guardians.
You took the words literally right out of my mouth. That is exactly what I was going to say. If you don't, it'll be like Guardians. It'll be one of those games that comes out and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess, 2 million people going to buy it and then that's not enough. And now you mad. And like now you upset, you hurt. You like, oh, I don't understand why the game didn't sell because you waited too long. You didn't show off enough. So like, what is in this game? Like, this is one of the rare occasions. Gotham Knights is one of the rare occasions where showing off a season pass before the game comes out would help you because the game is basically a fan service game. And so if you tell me, okay, you got these 4 characters, and also you've got the other Batgirls, you got Cassandra Cain, you've got Batwoman, you've got Batwing, you've got all these other Azrael, you've got all these other characters that are gonna come in the game like when in the season pass, you're gonna grab more people. You're gonna grab more of Batman's like the Bat family fan base. And that's what you want to do. And they've been telling you is like pre-order now to get this Bat cycle that nobody gives a shit about. Man, you get the fuck out of here. Like, put something, show off something. Show off a villain trailer. Like, Batman is known for his villains. Like, you can hype people up by showing off villains. The only villains we know are in the game are the Court of Owls, which is the main threat, and like Mr. Freeze and Penguin. Like, you got to do better than that. You got to come harder than that. Phrasing. But like, if you're not gonna do something else, like, what are we doing? So yeah, I mean, like, I'm still excited for Gotham Knights. I'm gonna get it regardless, but I would love to know more about the game instead of them trying to play everything close to the vest. So I don't know. The last thing I wanted to cover is, we did do predictions.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, we did.
And I think we all got fucking cooked on them shits because this was such a disappointing year. And I thought that we would all have like a couple wrong, but I didn't realize we would all like stumble across the finish line in such an embarrassing fashion. Like, we all blew it, bro. So I'm gonna just go. We're gonna go over all the predictions, talk about what we got right, what we got wrong, and we'll tally up and see who won.
All right.
So with
Spoiler,
round
not
1,
me.
Spoiler, I won. Okay? I don't think I won by a lot, and quite frankly, I would have rather lost, and there'd been more interesting stuff there. But that's not what happened. I'm pretty sure I won because I went with some very safe picks to get me like 2 points. So with round 1, the first thing the first thing I said was that I don't think Final Fantasy comes out this year. Check. That shit was they said summer. They hit us with the summer 2022, and everybody was like, "No." Say what, King?
As soon as I saw it, I was like, "This man finna cook us." In the next podcast. I was like, bruh, I hope it come out this year.
Hell no, that shit wasn't gonna come out this year. Square is not built like that, where they just like, although they almost was built like that. If Ever Crisis was to come out, not Ever Crisis, Crisis Core was to come out this year, that would have been like some impressive shit. Yeah. I don't think it's gonna come out this year. I think it's gonna slide into like February because they said this winter.
Okay. It's supposed to come out December, right? Right
yeah.
now.
Well, they just said this. They said this winter, but I have this feeling that this winter is going to turn into December. I mean, like February of 2022.
I can see that. I mean, a lot of games come out in February anyway.
Yeah, I think we also have to keep in mind that technically winter doesn't start until like damn near the end of the last week of December. So
yep. The next thing was Terrence. Terrence got one. Terrence
won.
What it wound up being was something Persona will be shown between now and Evo. And Terrence was right.
You were right.
Like I forced
it showed up in a way that I did not expect at all. Like, well, technically it was a Persona collection, but not in the way that I thought it would be.
You thought Persona 6, and I was like, I don't know about no Persona 6. And I fortunately I got you to say something more generic. And it just wound up being something Persona being shown between now and Evo. And I mean, you got it. So that's a point for you.
Huzzah.
Rakeem's prediction for round 1 got blown the fuck out like literally a day or two after we did the predictions. He was like, I think we're going to get a release trailer for Star Ocean 6 at the Sony State of Play.
I thought so.
I think before the show even started, Square came out and was like, look, we're going to do Star Ocean at the end of June. I'm like, well, that was already gone. So he already got blown out.
They shot that down like a days before.
They did. Will technically isn't wrong yet. So, I mean, like, we could revisit this and he might be right. He said Advance Wars would be at the Nintendo Direct. There might, I mean, like, we haven't seen a Nintendo Direct yet. There very well may be one at the end of the year. So if there is, I mean, he might have it. So I mean, like we're at right now with as of round 1, me and Terrence are tied. I think that's going to change shortly, but let's see.
It most certainly will.
So points.
I know that already.
I'm just gonna say for me, points pending. That's it.
I know a lot of my
Terrence-
positions.
points
I know a lot of
pending.
my predictions were way out of pocket.
Technically, I got one pending too.
I think everybody has at least one pending one. So round 2, Terrence definitely immediately lost because he was like, I think Granblue Fantasy Relink was going to be at the State of Play. And for the record, if it had been shown off at all, I would have given you a point, half a point. So like, I'm going to give everybody half a point if you're right about it showing up and if you're wrong about where it showed up. So like, Terrence was wrong. It wasn't shown at the State of Play. It wasn't shown at all. But it got delayed for next year.
Oh my god.
Son of a.
Will was technically right when he was like, I think it's going to be
December.
Yeah, he was like, I think it's gonna be in December. I'm like, that's basically saying it's gonna get delayed, which is what happened. That is insane because there is a title card out there that says, "Hey, look, Granblue Fantasy Relink 2018," and I'm like, looking at this date,
Where?
motherfucker, 2018.
Hey man, they're about as bad as Cuphead, the delicious last course, coming 20. It's been
Facts.
so long.
Rakeem had like a 3-prong prediction for round 2 and blew all of them. I mean, like all of them was wrong. He was like, "Oh, Skull and Bones gonna be at the Summer Game Fest, and we gonna get some on-foot gameplay." Which I tried to tell him. I said, "Akeem, I don't think that's gonna be the case." He was like, "I'm sticking to my prediction." Well, you stuck to being wrong. Is what you stuck to.
I ain't got nothing.
You also stuck to Ubisoft doing their own conference, which they did announce they would be doing, but it wouldn't be in June.
Right.
So that's technically pending. So
Yeah.
I don't know how to work that. And you were like X Defiant would show up and Splinter Cell would show up. And
No.
no. So Rakeem
Nothing
remains
showed
at 0. How do you feel about it, Rakeem?
I feel like they let me down.
He ain't never lied. They definitely hold you.
I think what's funny is a lot of this stuff still could show up at the Ubisoft conference. I'd expected the Ubisoft conference to be sooner.
I agree. Like it could indeed show up at the Ubisoft conference, but here's the thing. I don't know when that conference is because they couldn't even be bothered like at their Assassin's Creed thing. They were like, "Yeah, we've got the next level, the future of Assassin's Creed in September." I'm like, "Damn, in September?" So that makes me wonder, like, if Assassin's Creed, we don't get that until September, when is that? They call them Ubisoft Forwards. When is that?
That's a
October?
good point. That's weird too, because they did a complete opposite of what Square Enix did during the Final Fantasy VII event, showing the future of Final Fantasy VII all the way through, really.
Yep.
And then they did Assassin's Creed and basically just took us back through like the most boring historical, like just playing old games, just talking about, oh man, this was cool. Remember Origins?
Didn't mind it. Like I went back and watched.
It was nice to listen to.
Like I was watching them play because I mean, like it was Origins that they were playing. We both
Origins is a good ass game.
So
I do like it.
I
might play it
Will-
again, I'll be honest.
Will was half right.
Okay.
Will predicted Hollow Knight Silk Song at Summer Game Fest, and it was not there, but it
Yeah.
appeared. It was at Xbox.
Yeah.
How you feel?
At least I know it still exists. They still ain't gave me a goddamn date.
They definitely didn't give you no date. They hold you
That
on
was
that one.
weird.
I thought that was very strange.
Don't get it.
And then I don't even want to give myself a half a point for this. I just don't. I'm sorry. They said Dragon's Dogma 2. I predicted Dragon's Dogma 2 would be either at the Sony State of Play or the Summer Game Fest. It was at neither of those things. It was announced, kinda. And that's why I don't want to give myself any points for it. Because not only did we not get any gameplay, we couldn't even get a goddamn we just got the Resident Evil 2 remake. We do it. Like, come on, man. Like,
We got
got nothing else?
DD tall tees for everybody out here, bro.
I guess we gonna get some Dragon's Dogma tall tees. Like what? Like
Want
they
to start
couldn't
crip
even
walking?
remember the days when we used to like hate cinematic trailers.
Yeah.
Shit, I'd have took that over just a T-shirt reveal. Like, why did they do us like that?
Yes.
All right, round 3. Will is about to catch up. By the way, I refuse to give myself a point for that or half a point. Fuck it. If I lose because of that, so be it. Will pulls ahead because Batora Lost Haven did make a reappearance.
Nice.
I forget at what show. I think Future Game Show. Terrence,
That's where it
Will,
showed
do you
up
know?
last year. I think it should have showed up at the Future Games show because that's where it showed up last year.
So I mean, you know, all those shows kind of fucking ran together, so I really couldn't tell you, but you definitely got that one. How did it look to you? Did you see the new trailer?
I hadn't even had a chance to look at the new trailer as of recent. Got a little busy, hadn't looked at it yet, but knowing that it's still kicking, I'm happy.
Feel you. Rakeem.
Yes, sir.
Rakeem predicted Mario Odyssey 2 at a Nintendo Direct, which may still happen. What did y'all say? Points pending?
Points pending.
Still points pending. As it stands, you get zip. So Rakeem is still at Jesus at 0 points. So
no, man, I'm Cero Miedo. I got 0 fear. Let's go.
Terrence,
yeah, I know
Terrence
I'm
reached
wrong.
for the stars and crashed miserably into the earth by predicting a Metal Gear Solid remake developed by Bluepoint. And Bluepoint, like, I don't know why the fuck you thought we'd work on it. Konami not gonna give us nothing cool like that. And at Summer Game Fest at that, Jeff Keighley was like, "What the hell is this Negro think I got? Like, I ain't got the hookup like that."
Hey, that
Konami, the fuck off.
That should have been what that should have taken the spot of Last of Us Part 1 remake.
That would have actually
been
been
live.
way more hype. Metal Gear Solid remake, it would have been way more hype. Would have been more deserved.
You definitely would have.
I also crashed and burned. I was like, you know, maybe we'll see Wonder Woman. And Jeff again was like, I don't know what these Negroes think I got. Pixie Dust, like, I can't make games appear out of thin air. I ain't got this shit. Wonder Woman was not there. I'm sorry. We might see that game at DC Fandom if they do another one this year. The last one was fucking miserable, but it did have a very high number of people watching it. So it might show up again. If they do it again, I can see them trying to get not only Wonder Woman, but more Gotham Knights. And maybe that's why Gotham Knights hasn't said anything. And Suicide Squad. And if not that, San Diego Comic-Con is like a month from now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that's right.
yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know, right? Like you kind of, especially coming out of a pandemic, you forget about that shit. So, but I can absolutely see them showing up there. Once again, we all crashed and burned on this round 4. So with round 4, Rakeem, Super Giant, huh?
We'll
How
see
you feel?
them at the Game Awards. We ain't gonna see it. We ain't gonna see it with nothing else. If we don't see them now, we see the Game Awards.
I
If
guess
that.
we'll double down on that one.
Well, didn't they technically they announced additional stuff coming to Hades?
Didn't they?
Did they?
I think, didn't they? Well,
Look
I
it
mean,
up.
well, don't
I mean,
hold me to that. I mean, continue on with what you're with us
If it
talking.
did, it slipped through the cracks because I didn't see that in any conference.
Yeah, I didn't
Will
either.
Will
think-
kind of got hold. He predicted Silent Hill remake by Bloober Team or a new game.
Oh yeah, I did. They had some other
Bloober
shit
Team
come
did
out.
show up to Summer Game Fest
They did.
with a
Just
brand
not
new
with what I
IP
wanted.
that nobody cares about. I mean, like, I'm not gonna say nobody cares about it because there's a possibility people do want it, but not over Silent Hill.
Right.
So that's really the problem. Like everybody's like, "Where's Silent Hill?" And they like, "We got a new game, and we don't want no new shit. We want the shit we didn't play before. Where's Silent Hill?" So you know,
Yeah,
What was the new game
they-
What was the name of the new game they announced?
Layers of Fears, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Mm.
basically like a sequel to like the original Layers of Fear.
Oh, okay.
Was there another one?
Gotcha.
Yeah, there's a first one out called Layers of Fear, and then there's Layers of Fears with an S.
Oh.
It's a weird little thing they did with the title. Like if you don't pay it no attention, you're just like, these are the same fucking game. But you know.
No, I mean, like once you said there was a previous one, I was like, okay, I understand the difference. Because I was like, why is it Layers of Fears? Because it should just
Yeah.
be Layers of Fear. But like when you say, oh, there was a previous one that was called Layers of Fear, I'm like, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm
Terrence-
tripping and they didn't add anything to Hades. I could have sworn I saw something, but maybe I don't know. I must have been in some alternate dimension at that time.
Well, in that alternate
ahead of the game.
dimension, Hellblade 2 got announced, but in this dimension, it did not get announced. And it did not get announced. It didn't get a release date. That was your prediction for round 4. You were like, oh, Hellblade 2 will get a release date. I'm going to be honest with you. I think you got hold on that one because Microsoft was like, yeah, we're only going to keep to the next 12 months. And, of course, that game wasn't going to come out in the next 12 months. So I think maybe if they had extended it out to, like, next holiday, you might have been right. So I think you kind of got done dirty on that one. And if we had known going into it, like I said earlier in the podcast, if we had known going into it that it was going to be just the next 12 months, I wouldn't have let you pick that. I would have asked you to pick something else off your list. So
it be like that sometimes.
It do be like that sometimes. But you know who it ain't like that for? For me. Because for round 4, I predicted Starfield would get some gameplay, and I was right. I was right. They not only did it get gameplay, that's how they ended the show, which is how they had to end the show. People were anticipating that game too much. I'm sure Bethesda, if it had been left up to them, they might have just delayed it until like next year or like Game Awards or something like that. But because Microsoft is like, yo, nah, we got to show something. Like you gonna put something on this motherfucker. What's that Denzel? I'm leaving here with something. So Microsoft was probably like, nah, y'all finna put this up here. So that leaves us. I think Will is at 1.5. Terrence is at 1 point. Rakeem is at 0. And Terrence is at 1. So okay, we all right. Round 5.
Finally.
Terrence, you predicted a new Mega Man game announcement at Summer Game Fest.
Capcom said no.
Capcom survey says
Capcom said no harder to you than they said to the Dragon's Dogma fans. Actually, I'm gonna be honest with you. I would have preferred what happened to Mega Man fans and Dragon's Dogma fans because they had the nerve to show up at that Capcom Direct and was like, "Hey, bro, we want to tell you about Dragon's Dogma 10th anniversary." And Hideaki Itsuno came out there and was just like, "So 10 years ago, we made Dragon's Dogma. All right, I'll see y'all later." Like, damn, bro. Like, he had that swaggy baseball shirt. But other than that, I'm like, bro, you ain't got nothing for us.
He said, I always want to make an action RPG, man. We made Dragon's Dogma. And I can make 2. All right.
After that, he was like, I'm out. Rakeem, I asked you not to predict this. We talked about it multiple times before, and every time I said no, it's going to be at the Game Awards.
I'm down this year. I'm gonna take this year.
But you was like, no, I believe in Ed Boon. I don't. You predicted Mortal Kombat 12 would be at the Summer Game Fest.
I thought it might show up. The only reason I thought it might happen because many years ago, Injustice showed up at E3. The first Injustice actually showed up at E3 first. So like maybe because it's been a while, they might go ahead and show this at the Summer Games Fest and get a leg up on it. Maybe have some playable demos for people at whatever area they had, kind of did for Street Fighter. But I was wrong.
I think they had such a successful cycle with Mortal Kombat 11, where they just showed the game off at the Game Awards, and then the next 4 months they just kept showing new characters.
Yeah,
it was a constant drip feed of information up until the release date. I don't think they're gonna mess with that, like especially since they already missed this April. So I was like, next April seems like a likely, because they love April for releases. Yeah, so next April seems like a likely release date, and if that's the case, then the Game Awards seems like the best. So predict it again during the Game Awards, and you might get a point. Like, yeah, I feel like you're more likely to get a point. Real talk. Will again is hit with the points pending, because you predicted Bayonetta 3, Nintendo Direct get a release date, and there is no release date because there is no Nintendo Direct. How you feeling right now, Will?
All I can say is, if Nintendo fails me when it comes around, bro, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I might have to go directly to their office.
You know what's crazy, Will? You have the best chance of being the surprise winner when we revise this.
We're gonna see.
Because both of those predictions for the Nintendo Direct are very reasonable. Advance Wars and Bayonetta 3, like, both of those are very reasonable. And if you are right, you pull ahead by like a lot. So you might win later.
We're gonna see.
But later ain't now. So let's get to me And let's talk about this Final Fantasy IX remake that wasn't there.
Oh,
Mm.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know where that's gonna be if not here.
Let me be honest with you.
Yeah.
I feel like Square could have had something, like you said earlier, could have had things with their smaller titles in it. So I'll say this. I don't know where you may have predicted. Where did you say you predicted might have showed up at?
I didn't. I just said it would show up.
Okay, so I'll say it like this. We gonna put this as a thing of Square hoeing you because they simply went, we gonna talk about this game and this game and this part of the series only. This is where we at.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking maybe they thought that it would be too much Final Fantasy altogether. Because you give the news on 16, then you have the stuff on 7, putting 9 in there, that's kind of a bit too much. So that might be the reason why. Conspiracy
brain, if you talked about 7 and 9, then you talked about 16, because 9 plus 7 is 16.
Oh, hold on now.
I ain't gonna lie. That have been Gene's show 7 off, did the 9 remake, then 16. That would have been genius.
Will reached in his pocket and found some Half-Life 3 math.
You already know.
Oh, yeah, I remember the Half-Life 3 stuff.
Like, bro, I guess.
Man.
I'm
that was legendary.
Man, it was. I'm going to give out half points for honorable mention predictions. So let's get going. Let's get Rakeem out of the fucking zeros.
Thank
you. Will predicted Lost Soul Aside showing up. It did not. Will predicted Black Myth Wukong. It did not.
Fuck.
So here's the thing, though. I don't feel bad about you blanking on both of those because I'm quite positive you're gonna wind up with the highest score when it's all said and done. Terrence. Terrence, you predicted Contraband. Once again, Microsoft hoed you.
Wrong.
12 months. You said what?
No, is it wrong? I'm wrong. That's what I'm saying.
You what? I mean, like, Microsoft hoed you. Like, I would have expected to see that game, but they were like, no, because we didn't gave out too much false hope long enough. So all we giving out now is proper hope. This is shit that you will be playing in the next 12 months. It's an interesting strategy. Actually, real quick, do y'all think that was a good or a bad move?
To what?
Contraband?
For them, for them
Microsoft
to put out
focusing
like
on 12 months.
Yeah, for them to just focus on what's going on forward.
Yeah,
probably because
the
they had those delays.
Yeah,
because of those delays, they're like, we need to show stuff that people can play soon.
Yeah, and I will agree that I know we talked about earlier how I kind of said that I feel like Microsoft, like a lot of their big stuff is later. There is stuff coming this year, but it's kind of more in like the mid-tier kind of category. It's not like the big stuff. It's kind of stuff that's this will kind of hold me over until the bigger stuff comes. Because
High on Life.
High on Life. Yeah, High on Life, in my opinion. I mean, some people are saying it looks wacky. I think that is the charming part of it. I mean,
exactly.
in a sea of like first-person shooters that all kind of look the same, it's refreshing to see something that looks the way that it does. And I'm not gonna lie, it gives me Toe Jam and Earl vibes, and I respect it.
So I agree with that. You also predicted Donkey Kong, which you may yet be right.
We'll see.
That one is more of a long shot than Will's Nintendo Direct predictions. So we don't know about that one. You predicted BioShock. So with BioShock, I feel like that might show up at the Game Awards or Gamescom. And I'll say this real quick because I think we're running kind of long at this point. I'll say this. Typically, when you have a weak E3 or not E3, whatever, like summer show, typically the rest of the year is filled with like banger announcements. So like they kind of basically they just weren't ready for June. And so like Gamescom might be hype. Like, you know, they do Gamescom opening night live. Jeff does that. I feel like that might be live. The Game Awards, I feel like that might be live. Tokyo Game Show might even be good.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It usually sucks, but every now and again they'll surprise you and be like, "Surprise, bitch! We got some cool games here." So that might happen this year. And then you've got one more that still might happen. Tekken 8 at Evo.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did say that.
Yeah,
so that's
possible.
That's a big possible.
All right, Rakeem, your honorable mentions. Path of Exile 2.
They hold me there. I thought I was gonna show up at the PC Game Show.
You know, actually, that wouldn't have been a bad place for that because they had a lot of games of that caliber there. So you're not wrong. I don't know why you predicted this, but
they've shown it off multiple times.
No. This is I'm moving on to the next one. I don't know why you predicted this next one. EA Football Club.
Oh, because we talked about that. I was like, FIFA usually shows up during the summer. Yeah, football club.
I think they probably gonna wait on that one because I think this is the
Yeah.
last. This year is another FIFA game, and then starting next year it's EA Football Club. So maybe that's why. You also predicted DFL Chronicle, which in your defense really should have been there. I don't know why it's not like if that game is coming out this year, the fact that they didn't show it off at all this summer is very, very strange to me. I don't know what the fuck happened with you there, bro.
It feels like they're holding back for a later conference, maybe in July or August.
That would be so weird, but you could.
It
be
is
right.
weird, but it's not. It's not.
This year has been a weird one for games. So
It has. It's been a weird year in general.
Continue what you were saying, though.
All right. The last one, which gets Rakeem up to half point, the Diablo 4 new class. You called it, bro.
I knew it was coming. I was like, okay. I was thinking about all the Blizzard stuff. I was like, all they can show off really is like Overwatch 2 stuff, which is not much to be honest. Not other than it's going free to play. That's kind of big.
That's a big deal.
And Diablo 4, which I've been monitoring a lot. I noticed they've been showing off new classes sporadically, and this being the final class of the new game whenever it comes out, I had a feeling something would show up during the Summer Games Fest. I'm glad, and I like the Necromancy class. That's cool. So I'm looking forward to it. Might even play some D3 sometime this summer, just to get myself back into it a little bit.
I'm not gonna lie, I had no idea what the fuck that game was at first. It was just like this weird, creepy, gross trailer, and like some like dog snacking on somebody's innards, and I'm like, what in the fuck?
I literally, as soon as I saw the skull, I was like, oh, that's Diablo 4.
Wow,
I knew exactly what it was.
I was
kind of
watching
the Necromancer has a really specific kind of design in Diablo. That's how you can tell.
I had no clue. I just heard the like the smacking and I was like, oh, like this is gross because I can hear it in my headphones extra. I'm like, oh, this is fucked. So like, and then it just kept going. I'm like, what in the fuck is this game? Normally I can predict a game before it shows its title card. I had no clue until the very end. I was like, oh, this is Diablo 4, and it looks better than Diablo normally looks. So hats off to them.
Yeah. It's going to more of an art style, going like Diablo 2 was, more gritty and dark, which fits the aesthetic. I mean, you're fighting fucking the devil, so I guess.
I was gonna say you fighting demons and shit. So yeah.
Mhm.
I blew all 3 of my honorable mentions. Avowed got hoed because it again 12 months. Also, supposedly Avowed, I think got restarted, or not restarted, but like I think it had to like make some big major creative changes, and so like Rakeem got the rock out, bro. But I think that they had like some major creative changes to like their developer and stuff like to like the people in charge, and so like that game might be years off. Crimson Desert, if that game's coming out this year, I just don't know.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly.
Supposedly.
We'll I could give myself half a point for Dragon Age, but I fucking refuse. Like that title card shit. Oh, here's the name of the game. That ain't enough for me.
I didn't expect a full trailer either, but just seeing the name and like a little minor detail, it just feels like a smack in the face because they've talked about this game for a while now.
Well, the thing is, we know it'll be at the Game Awards because that's where it usually is. It's shown up twice, I think, at the Game Awards, usually with not much of anything. But I think this time they'll have like a full fucking trailer, maybe a release date if it's coming out next year. But I think it does show up later this fall. So, but I think that leaves us with. Well, I mean, I already told you one. I win. I fucking won. I told y'all. But I mean, like, I won in the most boring fucking way possible. So while I would love to do a victory dance or a victory song and let y'all hear my dulcet tones, there's just no fucking point because I'm disappointed. Like, I won off some nonsense. Like, oh, I think that some shit that we want to see early, we ain't gonna see that. Like, what? Like, what a whack way to win. Strategic, so I'll take it. But like it's just a whack way to win. Coming in second place is Will with 1.5 points. I think Will is going to take this in the fall, like at the end of the month. Nintendo Directs come out. I think Will wind up being right overall. He'll wind up pulling away with 3.5 points. Terrence has 1 point. I think he might pull away because you have a point pending, don't you?
What are you talking about, Tekken?
Yeah,
well,
still, but
the honorable mentions only get you half a point.
Oh. What's the Bioshock? No, that was an honorable mention. What was
Wait,
the
no,
other
you don't
game?
have any Nintendo Direct predictions.
Oh, I had a Donkey
Yeah,
Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Oh yeah, you might win that. You might get a point, half a point off that. And then Rakeem, you're at half a point, but you might get a point if they show off Mario. So we'll see. But for now, I am the winner. And,
don't you believe it?
I definitely don't believe it. I would have preferred to win a better way. But anyway, I think that is going to do it for this week's episode. If you like this, I need you to do a couple of things for us. I need you to do us a favor, hit that subscription button on YouTube. I need you to follow us on Twitter and TikTok. I need you to tell your friends about us. And I need you to do me a personal favor and have an excellent week. Peace.